Hey everyone, and welcome to Sasquatch Theory. In this video I will be reading some emails that were sent to me last year, and I wanted to apologize to the people who sent in their stories and have been patiently waiting. There are many people who have encountered Sasquatch-like creatures deep in remote areas. What do you do with this type of information? It can challenge a person's entire way of thinking and perceiving life itself. To be told that something does not exist and witness it with your very own eyes can challenge who you are inside. Never to return or be the same again, but to grow and learn from your experience. If a person ignores the Sasquatch activity, it can be life-altering and lead a person far from their destined path. Sasquatch time is much different than ours, and there is no coincidence you are experiencing the activity. When they show up and leave you signs, or even let you see them, life is letting you know it is time for change. This email was sent in by Eric, and he's from Minnesota, and the title is called Bigfoot Experience. Hello, my name is Eric. I've been watching your videos on YouTube. They are great. Your videos have encouraged me to write to you about the night Bigfoot became real to me. After watching your video of the guy from Minnesota who heard Bigfoot scream and yell at him in the Foothills State Forest, I had to tell you about my experience. I am from Minnesota as well, and I have a similar story. It was a late summer evening, about late August, early September, about 8 years ago. I was headed north for the weekend to the Paul Bunyan State Forest in Minnesota to look for new deer hunting spots and wild edible mushrooms. I have spent a lot of time in that forest. I have to tell you, this particular area, or area in general, is very rugged with steep hills. It is also a very big forest that is surrounded by other state and national forests in almost every direction. After driving 2 hours, I reached my usual camping spot about 4 or 5 miles deep on a forest road. I've camped there many times before. By the time I pulled into camp, it was completely dark with not much moonlight. I could not see into the woods with how dark it was. I pulled into a little clearing in the woods. I shut off my car and just sat there for a second in silence, exhausted from a long week of work. I was not looking forward to setting up my tent in the dark. Then a loud, terrifying scream broke the silence. It was close by, and it was directed at me. The scream came from across the logging road on a hillside of red pines about 75 to 100 yards away. It scared the crap out of me. It was not like anything I've ever heard in my life. I knew right away that this was it. This was Bigfoot. I scrambled for my phone to turn on the camera. Then another scream pierced the forest from the same source. I could not get my phone unlocked. Then suddenly, a large animal took off through the woods directly in front of me. About 20 yards, it was going for the hillside where the screams came from. It took off with a lot of speed, breaking many branches before crossing the road on its way to another Bigfoot screaming on the hillside of the pines. I could tell this was a big animal by how its panicked running was snapping large branches. I couldn't see into the trees at all. It was way too dark out. I couldn't believe there were 2 Sasquatch right there. The one across the road in the pines on the hillside was screaming to his mate or child to get the heck out of there because I had just pulled in. It had let out 2 screams in a row. The sound is hard to describe, kind of a cross between screaming and yelling. It was so loud and intimidating that I knew it was not from any known animal. It almost sounded like it could have come from a very large, pissed-off male human. But there are no people hanging out in the middle of the Paul Bunyan State Forest, in the dark, getting devoured by mosquitoes, screaming and sprinting through thick brush. For sure, I knew it was Bigfoot the second I heard it. It was bone-chilling, deafening scream that I have not heard since. Then the other Sasquatch that was in the trees directly in front of me that took off running towards his buddy. I could tell this thing was big and capable of incredible speed. The sound of the branches snapping as it ran through the woods stands out to me. It did not care about injury from sharp branches. It was through the woods, crossed the road, and went up the hill into the pines to his buddy, and it was gone in seconds. My heart raced for a while after it was over. I didn't know how to feel. I was scared but also happy. I had gotten to witness the legendary Bigfoot. I thought to myself, should I move to another spot or risk camping here? I stayed and slept well in my little tent. I've told my family and some other people about my experience. Most people look at me like I'm stupid, and a small few actually listen and consider it could be true. I still spend a lot of weekends in the forest. I'm really hoping for a visual encounter. Watching your videos has sparked new enthusiasm. I'm glad I got a chance to hear that other dude's story from the foothills state forest in Minnesota. The details of the Bigfoot screams he described are the exact same for my experience. It was so awesome hearing such a similar experience to mine, and not very far from each other either. I know Bigfoot lives in the forest of Minnesota. I'm not sure if it's just a spring, summer, or fall home for them, or if they stay for the winter. I can't imagine them enjoying Minnesota winters, but who knows? I'm going to keep visiting the forest as much as possible. If I meet them again, I'll let you know. I look forward to your videos. Thanks for them again. Hey Eric, thank you for sharing your email with me, and I apologize for it taking so long to get your story out. I've been chasing people around trying to get their interviews only to be disappointed. A lot of people get in contact and basically ghost me. For some reason, people from Missouri are notorious for ghosting me after contacting me. So I said, okay, you know what? I am tired of chasing all these people down, and I'm focusing on good people who are actually taking the time to contact me and share their story. I know everyone wants to see documentary style interviews and phone calls, but sometimes an email is just as good. So your experience from up north in Minnesota and the foothills sounds very similar to a lot of activity that I've experienced around here. It seems like the Sasquatch are more vocal when it gets dark out, and they are letting it be known that the area is theirs. I don't think that means they are going to hurt you if you don't leave. It's more of them expressing the fact that they are around and they own the woods. It also sounds like they were communicating back and forth, and you know what they say, if there's one around, there's probably more. I have said it before. Hunters, mushroom pickers, hikers, etc. have a high chance of experiencing the activity because they're looking for the same food as the Sasquatch, or areas, essentially. Doesn't mean every fisherman or person camping will experience Bigfoot activity, but it does put them closer than most other people, especially people that are just trying to go out like on a Bigfoot expedition and walk around. You actually have to be out there, be a little bit more quiet and not as mobile as you are. I don't know, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Alright, moving on to our next email. We have a Missouri story, and the writer's name is Bill. I'm not going to say his last name. And the title says, St. Francois County, Missouri Sightings. Hi. First off, I have really been enjoying your videos on YouTube. My experience happened in the late 70s, early 80s, in that area that is known as St. Joe Park. Our property was in town, but I could cross a creek on my dirt bike, right off our yard, under a terrain trestle, and I was near a few of the chat dumps, and I was in the park. Google Flat River chat dumps, or chat dump if you never had the opportunity to see one before they were removed. I have spent thousands of hours riding up there until 1982, when I moved to Amarillo, Texas. My first experience happened when a friend and I had been riding, and we stopped to smoke in a sandy area between two patches of woods. It was around late October, early November. We were about halfway through our smoke, and we were talking. A twig snapped right behind me. I would guess no more than 10 feet. Then we heard a loud grunt. It shook me to the core. My friend casually asked, "Did you just fart?" I already had my bike started and was out of there, and he was close behind. He got his answer later. I had never heard that sound in my life. Like I said, it shook me. My friend still thinks it was a pig. No way. I tried to put it out of my mind the best I could. He had no ill effects after the experience. Mine lingered, sometimes for many years. I would get almost an electric shock like tingle going down my back for no apparent reason. I still get them at 61 years of age when I feel watched or threatened in the outdoors. My second experience was later into that winter. It was about 3 days after a light snow. I was riding my YZ250 down a familiar trail. I was riding on the side of a field about 100 feet wide and 300 feet long. I was moving about 25 or 30 miles per hour, and I glanced across the field. There was a tall reddish figure along the wood line across the field. I slowed down, and as I did, it disappeared into the woods. I guess it was between 6 to 7 feet tall. No doubt in my mind, it was a Sasquatch. I know this happened a long time ago, but in my mind, it seems like last week. Since living here in Texas, I have seen a lot of evidence along the Canadian River north here in Amarillo, and in the canyons to the north and in Palo Duro Canyon. It stretches a very long way. Luckily, I know some landowners, and I can ride my dual sport bike there whenever I want. In the next year, my wife and I will be moving to St. Clair County, Missouri. We bought property there recently and are anxious to get moved. Our place is a 10-acre parcel of the 80 our son bought. It's near the south side of Truman Lake. Well, thanks for your time. Maybe one day we can meet and you can come check out our place. It looks very promising to me. Hey Bill, thank you for sharing your story, and that's not too far off. My brother used to go riding at St. Joe Park, and I think he still does. Also, St. Joe Park is very close to the Mark Twain National Forest. I have actually captured some of the best Bigfoot audio ever recorded, but I don't know, I'll let you guys listen to it and see what you guys think. This was close to St. Joe Park.
That was a good knock, buddy. Hey, buddy. You like pushing over trees? Can you push over a tree for me? Holy shit. Okay. Okay. Holy crap.
I captured that not too far off from that area, so yeah, I believe you, man. And if you're living at Truman Lake now, feel free to reach out and maybe we can meet up sometime. Alright, moving on to email number 3. We have another Missouri story, and this was written in by Brendan. Back in 2005, I was on a bridge called Monkey Mountain Bridge, ironically, and a group of us were standing around talking about Bigfoot, aliens, ghosts, etc., when all of a sudden a giant roar, howl, came from underneath the bridge, louder than anything I've ever heard in my life. It scared us all so bad that we jumped back into the car and sped off in terror. It was only about a mile away that we all gained back our composure and decided to go back and look over the bridge to see if we could see anything. Nothing, though. The bridge is pretty high up, and the sound was so loud it seemed like it was right underneath the concrete. Looking down to investigate, we noticed no boats or people in either direction, and on both sides of the river are steep bluffs with a lot of overgrowth. It was just not plausible to think that a person down there who happened to hear our casual conversation up high on this bridge would try to prank us like that, especially considering how crazy loud and booming the roar really was. The prankster would have needed a loud mega speaker to get to that volume. It did not stop going even after we all jumped in, started the engine, and took off. It really scared the living daylights out of all of us. In retrospect, I wish I would have stayed, ran to the edge, and looked down just to see, but the terror I felt in those moments was something else. And the fact that we had just brought the topic of Bigfoot up, contemplating his existence, is just wild. I'm certain what I heard that day was animal, not human, and not a fox either. I've heard several of them scream around me, and although loud, they are nothing compared to whatever screamed that day. Did not sound like a woman in terror either. The classic Bigfoot sound is exactly how I remember it. I've been into the topic for a while now, but life and adulthood took grip of me for a while, and I have never pursued it in an active sense. Until this past spring, when my girlfriend and I decided to take a long trip down through the Ozarks and into the Ouachita mountain ranges for sightseeing, hiking, and camping. We told ourselves and everyone it was to disconnect and explore nature, but really both of us were looking forward to hitting Sasquatch hotspots more than anything. For a few days we drove the scenic highways and back roads south into Arkansas, visiting the Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs and hitting some trails in that area. But of course, springtime in Arkansas means storms, and a big one hit us on the third day. Nearly caught in a flash flood and all, so had to change course and get out of the way of multiple fronts heading up from Texas. We went west into Oklahoma, into Cherokee Nation, and ending up in South Choctaw Nation, coming up on the backside of the storms after they had passed. I was about to give up on the Bigfoot hotspots, but little did I know I had just entered one of the hottest spots of all, Area X. We camped at Robbers Cave State Park that night and headed out Scenic Byway 12 that brings you back into Arkansas from the southern part of Oklahoma. Both beautiful, by the way. After stopping at every scenic point to pull over and read the info signs, we had made a day of it. It was also a day of talking and listening to podcasts about Sasquatch and cryptids. So to my absolute delight, coming down off the mountain into Arkansas, there's a little town called Mena, and the first thing you see entering Mena is a group of Bigfoot signs pointing you towards the Bigfoot shop. We were ecstatic and rushed in to talk their ears off for over half an hour about the big guy, and my 2005 story, of course. Very nice people that run that store, very friendly and fun to talk with. They also put me in touch with a local known around the area for his research and sightings of Sasquatch. In my excitement, I called him right then and there and asked him the best place to have an experience. As like all of the people in this awesome little town, he was not at all hesitant to tell me his stories and where to go. So I bought some apples and went out to investigate when the sun went down. I was not disappointed. He directed us to a specific spot called Ridge Mountain on the range coming right off of the scenic byway we just traveled. In less than 20 minutes of sitting out watching the stars, we hear our first whoop. mostly like a monkey, but at the height of the whoop, you could tell it was large, like it was trying to be quiet, but still be heard far off. Not even a minute after the whoop, coming from behind us, we heard wood knocks on the opposite end of the ridge to our 10 o'clock in front of us. At this point, I could sense something was now at the tree line by the road behind us. My hair raised on end and I got really scared. See, I was pumped to be there to go squatching. I never wanted to hurt the guy, was trying to feed him apples, and had no plans of backing down and running again. But this fear overtook me once again, and I ran to the truck and closed the door. I turned it on, headlights and all. I was scared. I didn't hightail it though. I rolled the window down, turned the engine off again, stayed there for a few minutes, and then the sensation was gone. The world came back to normal. And I wanted it back so bad, I started whooping and knocking for a response myself. Nothing. So after about another 45 minutes, listening for Bigfoot and watching for UFOs, we called it a night. I do count myself lucky though, for having at least heard him a time or two. Or maybe lucky I didn't actually see him. I hope I have the chance to find out. What got me into the subject was my mom's cousin. He has a wild story that to this day swears is true. This email's long enough, so I'll tell you another time if you'll have me. Thanks for the show, man. I've been keeping up. I hope you keep them up as well. Alright, thank you very much for sharing your experience with all of us and taking the time to email me. I will say that email was a bit difficult to read, and I had to improvise on a lot of parts and kind of just guess what the guy was trying to say. So if you guys want to write in your experience or encounter by email, make sure you take the time to do so, because you're causing me a lot of work and I have to guess what you're trying to say, and I don't like to do that. So please be sure to double check your story and make sure that if there's missing words, they're filled in, they're put in there, and things make sense. It needs to make sense, okay? So please write a story up that is readable and I can pump it out super quick and make a video on it. But if people are sending me things that I can't read, it's very hard for me to make a video, and it takes a long time, and it puts me behind, it puts everybody else's story behind, and I have people trying to contact me right now, so just think about that. And I do appreciate you sending in the story, but I'm just saying the last two emails had a lot of stuff missing and I had to fill in the gaps. I don't want to do that, okay? But I appreciate it nonetheless. That is all for now, and I appreciate you guys listening to these Bigfoot emails. If you guys enjoy them, please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys next time.